All right, let's. I want to finish up. We have a few things to do on Vayakel, and then we'll go on to. Pikudei. Hopefully on Tuesday, we'll start Pikudei. I want to finish up a few points, few interesting points on Vayakel. So, okay. First of all, on Perek Lamed Hey Pasuk Chof. Lamed Hey is 35:20. Thirty-five 20, page 518. 518. So the Torah brings down, we started Parshas Vayakel, and then Moshe Rabbeinu here gives the command, telling the people to bring the materials that the people are going to be donating to the Beis Hamikdash. And then, if you take a look in Pasuk Chof, so it says Vayetzu Kol Adas, it's page 518, about 9 lines from the top. Vayetzu Kol Adas B'nei Yisrael Milifnei Moshe. The people, all of Klal Yisrael, they left from the presence of Moshe. So the commentaries ask over here, well, Moshe gathered the people. Parsha started with Moshe gathering the people. So why does the Torah have to go and emphasize over here that they left Milifnei Moshe? We know they were standing in front of Moshe because it said it right in the beginning. So why does it have to say Milifnei Moshe? See, it all becomes a Gemara. At the end of the day, it's all a Gemara. It's all a Gemara. And why does it have to be Milifnei Moshe? So there are two reasons that the commentaries give. One of them is, if you remember by Avram Avinu and by Bilam, we saw an expression. It says Avram got up in the morning and saddled his donkey in order to go to the Akedah. And it's very, very strange that a prominent individual like Avram Avinu would be saddling his own donkey. And then we find the same thing by Bilam. That Bilam went and Bilam saddled his own donkey when he wanted to curse the Jewish people. Remember I told you, Bilam saddling a donkey is basically like the President of the United States pumping gas into his own limousine. Right, you got enough people to do it. So Chazal used an expression, ha'ahava mikalkelas es ashura. Love distorts clear thinking, which is what it says by Avram Avinu, because he was so eager to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he saddled his own donkey. Because of his passion for to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his passion for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So love distorts clear thinking, which explains how anyone ever gets married. The infatuation, what they call love, we call infatuation. What they call love, we actually call kares. But what they call love, we call premature death. But there's certainly the bond. There's certainly some sort of irrational connection. It says, "Ha'ava mikalkelas es ashura." When you love somebody, you do things that are weird. When you become very devoted, parents will do things for children, and a husband will do for his wife. A wife will do for her husband. If it's because of the bond is there. The same way, hasina mikalkelas es ashura. Hatred distorts clear thinking. Right? So, for example, Hillary Clinton is now blaming Donald Trump for Putin's invasion of the Ukraine. Right? Now what? Somebody told me this morning, now they're blaming Israel. Right? And the only thing that surprises me is, why did it take them so long? Usually it's right away. It took them at least a couple of days till they finally blamed Israel for this. So Hasina Mikalkelas says Ashura, she hates him so much that somehow it's Trump's fault that Putin invaded the Ukraine. That's Hasina Mikalkelas says Ashura. Okay. Here you have the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu is gathering them together and telling them what to bring. They're so eager to bring. They're so anxious to bring these materials because of their desire to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To their credit, it says they left the presence of Moshe Rabbeinu without getting dismissed. They didn't have permission. Moshe Rabbeinu never said, okay, now it's time to go. He just finished talking and the people bolted out. And they're not criticized for it. Why? Because they're so eager to do the Ratzon Hashem, so that people go running out. Number one. Number two, that's what the Mefarshim say as pshat. That's a pshat, yeah.
Isn't there a halacha that that you can only run on Shabbos if you're running to Kiddush. Is that where we get it from?
No, if you're running to Kiddush. No, if you're running to the Kiddush in the shul, you mean? Hey, you better run or you're going to get trampled in the Kiddush. You're lucky to come out with all your limbs intact. No, you're allowed to run to do a mitzvah. You're allowed to run to do a mitzvah. So here, the people go, therefore you're allowed to run on Shabbos to go to shul. I still remember this, I was a little kid, and on the way to shul, I was with my Zaydi Olav Shul. He was a very religious man, and we're on the way to shul. And he said, "Quick, let's move quickly because we have to get to shul." And then I remember after shul, I was hungry, and he was walking real slow. And I said, "Quick, let's go quickly so we can go home and eat." He said to me, "No, you don't run when you're leaving shul. You don't move quickly. You go slowly when you're leaving shul." Boy, was I upset. You move. So when you go to shul, you go fast. You go fast. Just make sure you don't trample somebody on the way. But I told you, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, you be careful when you're running to do a mitzvah that you don't trample the entire world on the way. Wow. Right? Some people in their haste to do a mitzvah, they leave a trail of bodies. Right? So here the Torah is telling you over here, do your mitzvah, but make sure that it doesn't end up with a federal sentence. So here it says that the people left Moshe Rabbeinu without permission. Number one. Number two, the Balei Musar say, "Vayetzi kol hadas b'nei somi lifnei Moshe" means when you see somebody walking. Let's say you see a guy swaying side to side very unsteadily. Right? The guy's kind of walking, and he's hobbling on the street. Right? He's wobbling from side to side. Where did he just come from?
Bar.
A bar. He probably came from a tavern of some sort. Right? When you see a guy limping on the street, he probably came from a football game. Right? When you see a guy running fast, he's probably somebody who's trying to get out of New York. Right? Whatever it is, you can tell by a person's movement, you can tell where a person is coming from. The Balei Musar say, people who were standing in the presence of Moshe Rabbeinu, when they come away, you can see these are people who just came from Moshe Rabbeinu. That means, if you ever see somebody come walking out of Reb Chaim Kanievsky's place, if somebody goes in to get a bracha from Reb Chaim Kanievsky, I've seen them come walking out like this. Ooh. You can tell where he just was. He was just in the presence. A guy who comes out of a movie, so the guy's doing like this, and he come out of a movie theater. And you can tell where a person's coming from based on what they're doing. You can tell how a person should, by extension, it means that anybody who ever sees us should see that we are coming from a beis medrash. Now, it doesn't mean you're literally been in the beis medrash just now. It means they should see that you're a person who's connected to a beis medrash. Your behavior and everything about us should reflect the fact that we are Torah Jews and that our behavior is based on Torah. Hi. Maybe give them a chumash of the guys that just came in, give them a chumash. There are a couple on the shelf over there. We're on page 518. Everybody should be able to tell about a Torah Jew that he is somebody who is reflecting Torah values, and somebody is coming from a beis medrash. So vayetzu kol hadas so milifnei Moshe, it shows that they came from Moshe Rabbeinu. Number one. Look at the next pasuk now. Chaf Aleph. Vayavohu kol ish asher nesao libo, every man whose heart so inclined him. V'chol asher nodva rucho, everybody whose how does he translate nodva rucho? Whose heart motivated him. Heviu es trumas Hashem lemechas o'amoy l'chol avodaso l'vigdei hakodesh. So the commentaries say over here, nodva rucho means, first of all, we said last time that who's going to get involved in building the Mishkan? These are all people who are non-professionals. None of them went to craftsmanship. What's it called? When you go to school to learn craftsmanship, what's it called?
School?
Trade school. They didn't go to trade school. They were just they were in Egypt. They were never in trade school, and they came out and they're in the desert. And all of a sudden, okay, now they're going to get involved in very, very sophisticated, articulate designs of gold. You're working with gold and silver and with tapestry and so on and so forth. Number one, and number two. There's the commentators say tongue-in-cheek, but it's not so tongue-in-cheek, that everybody who so inclined him, they brought. Kol asher nodva rucho oso heviu, as trumas Hashem. I mean, sometimes you get people make pledges. People pledge, but there's only one. They make the pledge, but they forgot to bring the pledge. They eventually, if you ever seen in a shul where they auction off, they may sell aliyahs in the shul, that sort of thing. You ever seen that in the shul where they sell, you never see that where they sell the aliyahs, they sell various honors in the shul. which is a mitzvah, by the way. It's a mitzvah to pay for the honors in the shul. There's no problem. They sell it on Shabbos, Yom Tov, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and it's not a problem according to halacha, where they'll sell the honor for opening their own kodesh, and they'll sell, sometimes you get a bidding war. I once heard about two guys got into a bidding war for the honor of opening their own kodesh on Ne'ilah. It's a big honor in opening their own kodesh at Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur. They open up their own kodesh. Two guys got into a bidding war. Obviously, there was some history here. And they started bidding each other. Reuven outbid Shimon and finally got it. So Reuven went up to open the Aron Kodesh before Ne'ilah, and Shimon went up there and he slugged him in front of an open Aron Kodesh right before Ne'ilah. Well, at least he had something to do tshuva for afterwards, So, that was a passion in serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I told you, in my shul, I missed this. In my shul growing up, I had already gone to Israel. And when one Shabbos, there two guys were talking during davening, and one guy turned around and said, shh. And they kept on talking, so he turned around and he clocked the guy. And he turned right in the middle of the he just clocked him, right? Which obviously means that it wasn't just that one-time thing. There was obviously, probably these are two guys who are knifing each other in business also. That's what he always assumed. But he clocked him. I was so disappointed because, my mother was there and I wasn't. There's one of those moments of life. And that got the shul quiet, by the way. And then they all stopped talking during davening. So that's all in the passionate desire to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So here, the Torah is saying that the people not only donated, not only they made the pledge, but they actually brought the pledge. It is very, very severe in halacha if you do make a pledge. If you ever make a pledge to tzedakah, or you make a pledge to the shul, or some pledge that you make to make a donation, to make sure you have to follow up on it. Okay. Now, take a look at Pasuk Lamed Beis, Perik Lamed Hey Pasuk Chav Beis. It's the next pasuk. How do you like that? Vayavo ha'anoshim al ha'anoshim. The men came along over the women, whatever that means. One way of translating Vayavo ha'anoshim al ha'anoshim, I think Rashi says with the women. That's how the article translates it. Kol nedivlivo hevichoch v'nezem. They brought these various, every generous person brought these various ornaments, choch, v'nezem, v'tabas, v'chumaz, kol klei zahav. They brought gold. Jews are donating gold, right? And they're in a rush to donate gold, right? Talk about miracles. V'chol ish asher henif tenuva zahav la'Hashem. They're bringing gold, piles of gold. So this is an interesting expression over here where it says the men came along with the women. And al could also be translated as along, as over. Now there are two different approaches here. One is the halachic approach, which is, first of all, a woman. This is a halacha nowadays. Let's say a guy knocks on the door and asks for a donation. Is a woman allowed to give tzedakah? The guy at the door.
No. Yeah. Why not?
Why not? Why not, Mordechai?
It's not her money.
Correct. It's not her money. It's not her money. It's her husband's money. Remember, 1 second. Let's just get something clear, gentlemen. Remember, the ksuva says you have to support her. And so before you get all excited, it's my money. Yeah, it's your money which you spend on her. Yeah, it's your money. You have to support your wife. And the Gemara says that you have to spend more on your wife than you could afford. How do you like that? Less on yourself and more on your wife. How do you like that? More than you could afford. And the Gemara says because she's dependent on you and you're dependent on the Ribono Shalom. Which is obviously a way of saying if you want the Ribono Shalom to accept you as a dependent, make sure that you accept her as a dependent. So you have to support your wife. So the halacha is that what a wife earns is actually the husband's. Right? But there's a logic to it. It's not just we own the women. It's because you've taken on support for this lady. You've got halachic obligations of how much you have to provide for her. You have to provide for her. So her money and your money is yours. A woman does not have permission to give money away unless it's a token donation. A guy at the door could accept, a wife has permission. It's assumed that she can give a couple of bucks or whatever is considered a token donation nowadays. To give a large amount of money, she's not allowed to give without her husband's permission. So commentators say, well, the women were bringing gold objects also. The women were bringing gold to the Beis HaMikdash too. Yet, how could a woman possibly bring gold for the Mishkan? How could a woman bring gold to the Mishkan If a woman's not allowed, remember, these people kept the halacha. So it has to be that she came along with her husband and her husband gave permission. That's why the men came along with the women. So that the men could ratify the donation that the women are giving, that the husbands are there to agree to the donation. That is one approach. Very interesting, right? Because otherwise, how would it work? There's another opinion that says al hanoshim means that the women were wearing their ornaments. They were actually wearing their jewelry all the way to the Mishka, to the donation site. Now, why would they do that? Why would they wear it all the way there? Would they hardly have trouble parting with it, huh? You're close. Yeah, what do you say, Tzvi?
If it's the men's, like jewelry and stuff, then why did the women object when the men tried to grab the jewelry for the?
It's a good question. We'll see in a second. I'll get to that in a second. Why would the women be wearing it? What do you say, Yona?
To show it was theirs.
Very good, to show how beloved it is. To the last minute, I'm not just giving something that I have extra with a piece of jewelry sitting in my drawer which I never liked. Right? This is the jewelry that I wear. And they're showing how beloved it is, yet to go and donate it to the Mishkan, it's even more beloved. Correct. That's what the verse said. Okay. So then the commentator said, what does it mean, al hanoshim, over the women? So who did the Avera at the golden calf? And this goes to Tzvi's question. So he was asking, why, by the golden calf, Aaron said to the men, get the jewelry from your wives. Get the jewelry from your wives. Why did he say that? That was a stall tactic. Because when a husband comes to the wife and says, oh, do you mind giving me your golden earrings? Why? We got something going. What? Right? No, it's with Aaron. Yeah. What is it? Well, it has to do with making a golden calf. We don't do that sort of thing. Right? The women have a much higher sensitivity, excuse me, for right and wrong. And therefore, the women aren't going to part with it so quickly. Here, the men are coming along with the women. So this is my own idea. I didn't see the commentary. It says, but I think tongue-in-cheek, the women are saying, well, this time I want to see where it's going. Right? Last time you messed up. You took it, I gave it to you, and you messed up. This time it'll go. I'm coming along to see where it's going. Okay. Possibly. But one of the commentaries say, there's an expression, the Gemara says, who's on a higher level, a regular tzaddik or a Baal Tshuva? Baal Tshuva. So actually two opinions of the Gemara. One opinion is a tzaddik, and the other opinion is a Baal Tshuva. The Makom Shebalei Tshuva Omdim, where Balei Tshuva stand, even the biggest, most righteous tzaddikim can't stand. A Baal Tshuva occupies a certain higher level than even a righteous tzaddik. I think I mentioned to you, Rabbi Yosef Zatzal, he once spoke at the Israeli branch of Or Sameach. Or Sameach had an Israeli branch here. At one point, the Israeli division was upstairs. Rabbi Yosef came here. And he said, it's an honor and a privilege for me to be in the same base medrash as you in this world, because in the world to come, I'm not going to have that privilege. That's what he said. That's what Rabbi Yosef said. So there is an aspect, the Gemara, and that's based on a Gemara. The Gemara says where a Baal Tshuva stands, even a righteous tzaddik, it's about tzaddikim gemurim in a moment. A righteous tzaddik can't stand there. The men were the ones who worshiped the golden calf. But the men's here are doing tshuva. Now who's on a higher level, the men or the women? Vayavohu hanoshim al hanoshim. The men were above the women at this point, because the men became Balei Tshuva. And that just shows you that a person, we're talking about people who worship the Egel Azav. Sometimes a Baal Tshuva says, I ate non-kosher food. That's okay. Once you commit yourself not to, you're a Baal Tshuva. Once you commit yourself not to, you didn't worship the golden calf. And the golden calf is the worst Aveira in history. And if for that they could do tshuva, and they're regarded as being on a higher level as even the women who are always on a higher level than the men, I told you that many times, the women by nature are on a higher level than the men. Even, yes, I know we make a bracha shelo asani isha. Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes, I am aware of that. And I told you that if you want to know what that bracha means, what's the easiest explanation for that bracha? So saying, we're privileged of doing mitzvahs. There are all sorts of very deep explanations. There's a very simple explanation, which is the explanation that I understand as being the basic meaning of the bracha. Who's got a more difficult physical existence, men or women?
Women.
Ask women. Women have a much more difficult physical existence. Right? Men are consistent. Our bodies are basically consistent. Maybe Motzei Shabbos, there's a break. But other than that, we're more or less pretty consistent. Women are never a week in a row that they're changing this, and she's pregnant and nursing and us and blah, blah, blah. And on top of it all, she got to give birth. she got to give birth. Isn't that a joke? It's a joke. The guy goes in. I remember when my wife, the first time when she was in the, in the maternity ward, where she goes in to give birth. And I heard a scream, and I told you guys, I heard a scream down the hall. I heard, ah! I heard a blood-curdling scream. The nurse is in the middle of taking, the nurse is saying, what's your name? She's taking the middle initial. What's your middle initial? Where are you from? And all of a sudden I hear, ah! Down the hall. So I'm looking around. I expect to see flashing lights, code blue. Doctors are running. And she goes, was that a D or a B? The nurse. I said, what was that? She goes, oh, what was what? I said, I heard a scream. I said, oh, that's just a woman giving birth. And you know what went through my mind? Shelo asani isha. That's what went through my mind. That's what went through my mind. Right? First thought, Shelo asani isha. You think it's a joke? It's a joke. So there's I think the real shot is because a woman has to be married to a man. And nothing is worse than that. Right? Shelo asani isha. If you're an isha, I always tell guys when you're married, look in the mirror, ask yourself a question. How would you like to be married to you? Yeah. In the best of scenario, that's the sound you'd make, right? Hey, you're unreasonable and you're stingy and you're yelling and you got angry and you're a baby and everything. How would you like to be married to you, right? Shelo asani isha. But women are on a higher ruchni level. Women are on a natural ruchni. They're naturally attuned to what's right and what's wrong. They have a sense of what's right and what's wrong. And therefore, here, the men are on a higher level than the women because the men over here have become Bali Chuvas. Okay. Take a look at Pasuk Lamed Zayin. Chav Zayin. 6 lines from the bottom. V'anesiim heviu es avdei hashoham es avdei hamiluim. The Nesiim, the heads of the tribes, brought the avdei shoham, the shoham stones, the avdei hamiluim, the gemstones, la'ephod v'lachoshen. So the people brought all the other materials, and then the Nesiim bring the various gems that they donate the various gems. Now, Rashi over here points out, if you look at Rashi, it's the left column, 5 lines, 6 lines from the top, in the left column. And you, please show the person next to you if you can't find it, if you find it. So it says, V'anesiim hiviu, Amar Rabbi Nosson, Ma ro'u nesiim lisnadei b'chamrukas hamizbeach betchila. Why, when it came to the inauguration of the altar of the Mishkan, of the altar, they donated first. Yet here they didn't. When it came to the Mishkan, they didn't donate first. This is what the Nesiim figured. Yisnadvu tzibur masha nisnadvi. Let the community give what they're going to donate, what they'll donate. What they're missing, we'll fill it in. But once the tzibur brought everything, because later on we'll see a pasuk that says they had enough. What should we do? So they brought the various gems. Then Rashi says on the next page, Rashi continues, because they tarried, literally nisatzlu means they were lazy, nechsera os mishmam, a letter is missing from their name. Vehanesiim ksiv. If you look in the pasuk again, you'll notice that there should be a yud between the aleph and the mem sofis. There should be a yud, 6 lines from the bottom on 518. It says vehanesiim, but there's no yud between the aleph and the mem. And there should be a yud over there. Why was that yud left out? That yud was left out because the Nesiim were lazy at their level, and they waited till the end to bring it. What that means is like this. Number one, the Nesiim are the leaders. They should have led the donating. They had a very good excuse. They had a very good reason. Let's see what comes in, and then we'll fill in whatever comes in, whatever is missing. Sounds like a very righteous, very good reason to wait. It seems that in every time a person comes up with an excuse for not doing something they should do, there's an element of laziness in it. There's a certain amount of laziness. And if you're really eager and you're really energetic, you wouldn't be looking for excuses. Oh, let's wait and see what happens. Why wait and see? Why not? You're not a see him. You're supposed to go ahead and do it. So the letter Yud is left out. Now, why is the letter Yud chosen? Why specifically the letter Yud? What's significant about the number 10? What's significant about the number 10? Something very significant.
Perfect.
10 is not only its perfection, 10 is unity. How many plagues were there in Mitzrayim? 10 plagues to demonstrate there's one God. And there was a demonstration that there's one God running the world. 10 commandments is because there's one God who's giving the Torah. The number 10 is always a symbol of unity. You want to daven. 9 people davening together is 9 people davening together. When you have 10 people davening together, suddenly you become what? A unit. You become a minyan. 10 people davening together is a minyan. You become unit. You're one. The Nesiim should have joined the people. By doing it on their own, they kind of created a separate faction. A separate faction breaks up the unity and interferes with the unity of the Jewish people. Therefore, the letter Yud, which is the symbol of unity, the letter Yud is left out of their name. And that's a person who always tests himself. There was a famous story, a very, very powerful idea. There was somebody was arriving in a town, and some Rav was arriving in a certain town, and there was another Rav who felt that on the one hand, honor protocol requires that he should go to the train station and greet this other Rav. However, this other Rav had certain ideas which are contrary to Torah, and it was a more modern ideas, and he decided that it really is not the right thing to do to go and greet him at the train station. It's really not the right thing to do because you can't show too much honor for somebody whose ideas run contrary to Torah. He only had a problem. He didn't know if the reason he didn't want to go to the train station is idealistic, or the reason they want to go to the train station is he just doesn't want to schlep on down to the train station. So what did he do? He got into his wagon and he rode down to the train station. And at the train station, he made the decision. He decided, no, I really shouldn't be greeting him. And he got in the wagon and he went back home. But sometimes in life, your decision is based on, should I do it or should I not do it? If you don't, why don't you switch your location and then you'll decide. Right? This is always very, very tricky. It's always very tricky. I don't really want to go, I don't want to honor, I don't want to have to, the guy doesn't deserve this, that, or the other. Why don't you exert yourself? That's why I told you when it comes to getting up in the morning. When you wake up, you like to go back to sleep, right? They never had, what do you call it? Why doesn't this go off? They never had, snooze alarms back in Europe. In the 1700s, there were no snooze alarms. Nowadays, you got it. So you wake up in a cold, chilly, frosty Yerushalayim morning, and you really like to stay under the covers, right? And you need more. I feel I need more sleep. Okay, it could be you do. Don't make the decision horizontal. Get vertical. Once you're vertical, then decide if you need more sleep or not. Right? If you're horizontal, then the bechira has been taken away from you. You do not have free choice. That's not my idea, it's Rabbi Tatz's idea. And it works. I've done it. I've had mornings where I feel kind of queasy while I'm lying down. And I say, I better stay in bed. And first, just sit up and see what happens when you sit up. Then you sit up, and you see that things look a little different. Sometimes you just go right back to sleep because you really may need more sleep. But give yourself a fighting chance. It's the same thing. This is a test to see, are you being lazy? Is this genuine or it's not genuine? Yeah, question.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand the Havamina of the Nasiim. That they could have brought first, and then they could have given again after. Good.
And that's exactly because the Havamina had a pircha on it. Right, the Havamina was shver, right, and there was a kasha on the Havamina. That's exactly why the letter Yud was left out. That's exactly correct. Very good. Okay, very good. Take a look at Pasuk Lamed. Okay, so Yos was asking about B'Tzalel. Vayomer Moshe el Bnei Yisrael, Re'u, Kora Hashem b'Shem. Hashem is called by name. Bitzalel ben Uri ben Hur lemate Yehuda. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called by name Bitzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, from the tribe of Yehuda. Now, interesting man, Bitzalel. Very interesting man. Very interesting man. He just had his bar mitzvah. Right? His bar mitzvah, nowadays they give a kid a bar mitzvah gift, they give a model of the Mishkan. You ever see they have these little toy models of the Mishkan? They actually have a model of the Mishkan. Bitzalel, for his bar mitzvah, built the Mishkan. Right? He actually built the Mishkan. He's 13 years old. Okay. So who is this man Bitzalel? Take a look at Rashi. Hur. So the second line, Bitzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur. Bino shel Miriam haya. He is the son of Miriam. Now, we had met Hur once before. Hur we had met. Anybody remember where we met Hur the first time? Before that even? What's that? Holding up Moshe's arms, right? And on the mountain. Aaron and Hur went up there. And Rashi over there said he's the son of Miriam, and her husband was Kalev. Here, Rashi just tells us he's the son of Miriam. So that begs two questions. Number one, why does Rashi need to tell us that again? We already met him. And number two, why did Rashi leave out Kalev over here? Right? Earlier, Rashi said he's the son of Miriam, and the Kalev was her husband. Yet over here, Rashi just says, A, why is he repeating it? B, he's telling us he's the son of Miriam. Okay. So there's a very interesting concept the commentaries point out over here. What do we know about Miriam? What do we know about Miriam? What did Miriam do? What was it? I remember her code name? Shifra and Pua. What did she do as Pua? She was helping with the babies that Paro had decreed have to be thrown into the river. In the ancient world, you didn't defy an emperor so quickly. And if you did defy an emperor, what happened? You died. Right. That was it. There was no like short sentence with parole. Don't crack the sunflower seeds. There was no short sentence in parole. There's no short sentence in parole. And there's one sentence. It's called death. Right? You defy the king, you die. So what Miriam did, she was Moser Nefesh. Miriam was Moser Nefesh. She was willing to give up her life for the good of the cause. What do we find by Hur? Hur went up against the whole people at the Egel. And what happened to him?
He died.
He got killed. So the commentators say that, there's a halacha. There's a halacha that you have to give up your life for certain averas. Avodah zarah, gilurat, shfichus damim. There are certain times that a Jew has to give up their life. Now, throughout Jewish history, there have been plenty of Jews who have died, who have given up their life rather than bow to the cross, than embrace Christianity. They've given up their lives. Who are the Jews who have given up their lives for the most part? Throughout history, it's been the simple Jews. Why? Because if you're too smart, you'll figure out a reason why you don't have to die. And Mesiras Nefesh requires, don't be so smart. That's what Rashi says. It's an interesting concept. Because if you start fetching with the thumb, right, you'll think, no, but I'll be able, you'll figure out, you'll work your way out of it. When a guy pulls a gun on a Jew and says, worship the idol or I'm going to kill you. Today? Or do you mean today? Or do you mean literally kill me or just embarrass me? You got a whole lumdus over here. Right? And when you get too smart for yourself, so that you figure out, you'll outsmart yourself. What it requires is, don't be so smart. The Torah says die. As a result of Miriam being Moser Nefesh, she had 1,000,001 reasons she could have not done it. No, he's an emperor. My life comes first. I have to worry about my life. I can't worry about the children. And she didn't make cheshbonos. Hur is standing at the Egel. What chance do I have to stop the people? All that's going to happen is they're going to kill me and worship the Egel anyway. And he doesn't make any. This is what needs to be done right now. No calculations. Don't be too smart. Mida keneged Mida, they have a grandson. Who's their grandson? Bitzalel. And what is the reward that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives? Vayemale yoso ruach Elokim b'chochmo v'svuna v'das v'chavalacha. He's filled with divine wisdom. What does Bitzalel do that he earned divine wisdom? He's got ancestors who weren't too smart. They were very smart, but they didn't let their smarts interfere with what they have to do. Sometimes a person has to know, you get too smart. When I first got married, I'm a Kohen. I think I've mentioned. Anybody here a Kohen? Nobody here's a Kohen, right? Oh, you're a Kohen. Guys, if you want to give, what do you call it, truma? I was here before him. So what do you call it? You're not even getting a cut, Mordechai. You can wash his hands. Give me the money. What do you call it? Give him the honor. I'll take the cash. What do you call it? I'm a Kohen. There's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Are you aware that there's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch that you're not allowed to make use of a Kohen? It's in Kuf Chav Ches. I know this halacha well. Kuf Chav Ches says, Ein mishtamshim bekohen mizman hazeh. Kuf Chav Ches Siv Katan Mem Hey. Right in the Mishnah, look it up. Right? You're not allowed to make use of a Kohen. You can't ask a Kohen to do to go take the, what do you call it, to go move your bed or to go schlep something for you to deliver a letter. You're not allowed to ask a Kohen something unless the Kohen is honored by doing it or the Kohen is paid for doing it. But a Kohen, you're not allowed to ask a Kohen to do things for you. That's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch. So I was married about, I don't know why it took me so long. I was married, it was my second year of marriage. And my wife is married to a Kohen. So she said to me one day, she asked me to take the garbage. And I remember this halacha. And I said to her, I got exactly the quote from the guy. She said to me, can you take the garbage? And I said to her, how does it look for me, a Kohen, to take the garbage? And she said, how does it look for you, a Kohen, to be single? Right? So I took the garbage, right? But then I asked the posek why I'm allowed to. Not that I had a doubt. I understood. Yeah, I know. She's my wife. So I asked the posek, why am I allowed to take the garbage? I was just curious what the technical reason is. And by the way, this applies to minor kohanim also. You can't ask. There's a poskim that say that since it is a deoraisa, and there's a suffix whether you could ask a kohen who's a minor to do things for you, suffix deoraisa l'chumra. They actually poskim say that's not a joke. The question is even to what extent, if you're sitting at a table, could you ask a kohen to pass you the salt? Not so simple. There are poskim who say minor things like that, yes. But to ask the Kohen to do you a favor, to ask the Kohen to do you what do you call it, that you're not allowed to do. That you're not allowed to do. It's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Unless the Kohen, I've had people who ask me, do you mind taking a letter for me? Do you mind delivering something for me? So I don't mind doing it, but you should know that if I do mind it, I'm doing it under duress because I'm too embarrassed to say that I don't want to do it, then it becomes a problem. According to the halacha, it becomes a problem. I remember the rabbi in my shul, when I was a kid, I was about maybe 10 years old, 11 years old. The rabbi at the shul was a very, very fine man. He walked out of shul one Sunday morning back in Chicago, and he walks out with me and he says, I know you're a Kohen, but do you mind going across the street to the 7-Eleven and getting me a newspaper? He gave me a quarter, you could buy me a newspaper. So I thought he was saying as a formality, I know you're a Kohen, but do you mind doing it? It's not what do you call it? You have to what do you call it? It's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch. So I asked a posek, by the way, why I'm allowed to do it. The posek said to me, not all of the eggshells and orange peels are hers. Some of them are yours also. It's not like you're taking the garbage for her. Some of the garbage is yours too, right? But that's not. I mean, they're obviously ishto kegufa and so on and so forth. But these are all. It's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Okay, it's an excuse. It's an excuse. If you're really smart, you'll come up with excuses. When you're really smart, you come up with excuses. Comes along the Torah and says, B'tzalel gets wisdom. B'tzalel gets wisdom. Why? Because his ancestors did not resort on wisdom to get out of the responsibility of being Moser Nefesh. Yetzvi.
Is it better for you as a Kohen to then deny the request so that you don't do it under duress? You don't want to, like, you're honest with yourself.
If you honestly don't want to do it, yes. If you honestly don't want to do it, yes, but don't use it as an excuse. It's not a good habit to get into. Yeah. On the other hand, the Chafetz Chaim does say you shouldn't be flippant about it. It is a halacha, and you should sometimes say no because it's a halacha, and it's not just like okay, it's just a halacha, but I could do it anyway because it is a halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Kohanim have special kedusha. What can I tell you? I don't mean to brag. Yeah.
Are there any problems if a Kohen asks another Kohen?
That's actually the Bir Halacha discusses that, and the Bir Halacha says it's not a problem. My wife happens to be the daughter of a Kohen. My father was also a Kohen. My wife is a daughter, which is insignificant, by the way. It's totally insignificant. The wife takes on she takes on the husband's status. So if she's a Bas Yisrael who's married to a Kohen, she's got Kohen status. She could eat Truma. And if she's a Bas Kohen married to Yisrael, she can't eat Truma.
So that also is like a heter basically?
No, she's got no heter. She's not allowed to ask me to do anything. So what do you call it? In any event, I'm just telling you, sometimes if you really want to be smart, so you'll figure out you could be too smart. You'll figure out all sorts of the Gemara says that Rabbi Meir. Remember, speaking about Rabbi Meir, he had a what do you call it? Rabbi Meir was so brilliant. The Gemara says Rabbi Meir had a Talmud who was so brilliant he could bring you 150 proofs why a reptile is a kosher animal. There's only one problem. It's not. Right? But you could fetch him at the thumb. You can always figure something out. And that's what Betzalel, that's what a person wants to get out of dying, they'll figure out a reason why not to die. And therefore it says, don't be so smart, just, and there's a pasuk in Shlomo HaMelech writes, Al techkam harbe, don't be too smart. Oh, no, he says, don't be too much of a tzaddik. Sorry, al titzdak harbe. Don't be too much of a tzaddik. Shlomo HaMelech says, don't be too much of a tzaddik. I think, chacham or tzaddik, which one did he say?
Tzaddik.
Tzaddik, I'll tzaddik harbe. Don't be too much of a tzaddik. Don't outsmart yourself. Okay, number 3. Re'u kara Hashem b'shem. So the Mefarshim say that Moshe Rabbeinu was telling. All right, leave that alone. I want to show you one last point here. Very important. Take a look at Lamed Vav Zayin. Very quickly. Lamed Vav, Perek Lamed Vav Pasuk Zayin. It's on page 520. Pick it up from Pasuk Hey. It's about a little past the halfway point. $11.18 to the way down the page. V'yomru el Moshe. The people say to Moshe, Lemor, all the wise men came. To Moshe Rabbeinu, they said the following, Marbim ha'am la'avi, the people are bringing a lot. Mideya avoda la'malacha asher tziva Hashem lazo. The people are bringing too much. Can you imagine? They're asking for donations. The Jews are donating too much. There's a protest. They're donating too much money. Gold, silver. Vayetzav Moshe v'yivir kol b'machan anymore. Ish v'isha yasu ad malacha l'trumas hakodesh. No more. Vayikol ha'ameavi. The people stop bringing. V'hamelacha ha'isa it was enough. L'chol ha'melacha lasos osav oser. It was enough, and there was even more. So commentaries point out, I can make up your mind. It says there was enough. Then it says there was too much. Dayam, it was sufficient. V'hoser, it was even more. Well, which one was it? It was the right amount, or was more? Which one was it? So the one approach is there was actually in amount, there was actually too much. But miraculously, it was just enough. So that everybody who brought could have a part in the Mishkan. Even though objectively it was over. It was over. You didn't need all those ingredients. That's one opinion. The other opinion is the plain meaning. There was enough, and there was even more. There was leftover. Why was there leftover? Because if it would have been exactly the right amount, people could start walking around saying, "If not for my donation, if not for me, that Mishkan would have never been built." Right? This way, no one individual could say, "If not for me." Because if not for you, we had enough. There was leftover. And therefore, in order that the people should be able to give, and it shouldn't go to their heads, so the Torah says, Dayam v'hoser. There was enough, there was even more. So that nobody should think that he is the hero who without him, the Mishkan would not have been built. One last point. If you look at Pasuk Tes, Lamed Zayin. Go to the next chapter very quick. Very interesting thing. You've heard of Rameir Shapiro from Lublin, right? The Daf Yomi Rameir. So he says on this pasuk, page 524. 524, it's about 13 lines from the top. Pasuk Tes. Vayu, it talked about the Kruvim in the Or Kodesh. Vayu akruvim porsek tafaim lamala. The Kruvim, who had these baby faces, they spread their wings upwards. Sochachim bekanfeim al-kapores, u'pnei mishalachim al-kapores yu'pnei akruvim. Rameir Shapiro of Lublin, what do you know about him? What did he do? What did he innovate? The Daf Yomi. Right? There's the famous Daf Yomi, Rabbi Meir Shapiro. So the Daf Yomi, when he innovated it, took the Jewish world, he was ratified by the Chafetz Chaim, and And he had a lot of people learning Torah. And there are a lot of people today learning Torah because of his idea of the Daf Yomi. Rabbi Shapiro said that when he was a little kid, he was in a shul talking to a friend of his once. He was a little boy. And he brought up this idea of everybody learning the Daf Yomi, starting this Daf Yomi. When he was a little kid, he said it. There's an old man, some crotchety old man in shul came over to him, and he said, come on, Yingala, you just learn your Chumash over there. Don't go dreaming. Right? So Rabbi Shapiro said, you see the Kruvim have the face of children, yet their wings are spread upwards. He said, you never discourage the dreams of a child. Don't discourage his dreams. He'll find out on his own. Right? People will find out on their own. Right? Don't discourage his dreams. He said, what if I would have listened to that guy? What if that guy would have dropped the idea right then? So then we wouldn't have had the Daf Yomi. Don't discourage children. Sometimes children, they talk. As long as they're doing something. Don't think a kid says, I want to learn now because I want to finish Shas every day. Okay, let's see. Go ahead. You'll see on your own that you can't, right? Or a kid starts learning because I want to complete something. Don't discourage people. There are always naysayers. There's always naysayers. Don't discourage a kid unless you see that it's actually going to be something harmful. Most things that people dream, most things that people try, they'll find out. If it's not realistic, they'll find out on their own. Meir Shapiro said that's what the Kruvim are, children with their wings spread out. You think high. You should reach high. Reach high. Just don't reach too high that you end up falling on your face. That's all. You should reach high. It's okay. And for children, a person should never discourage them. Why discourage them? What is there? Let the kid dream. Let the kid dream. It can only help until it gets to the point that you see that it might be harmful, but it's rare. All right.